Yo, what's up, everybody? It's Friday. Good to be back here on Twitch and YouTube. Keep forgetting about multi-stream. Oh, it's been a good day. Nice Friday. Hope you all are having a nice Friday as well. Cool. So last time started working on this really cool dragon and its rider. It's Ionus Cryptborn guy. Started working on him, and I'm really liking how this is looking. This really nice fluorescent purple workup for this Drake thingy with the teal colors as a contrast. And like I was saying, painting in the wings was going to take a ton of time just to do this. Paint these in by hand, nice and clean. It took me like 2 hours to do this. I'm glad that I didn't do it on the stream on Tuesday. So we got that done, and we're ready to just like these little like fur pieces, go in and give those a nice airbrush highlight. Jesse, we just started, man. I don't know what you want from me. 8 Age of Sigmar, like you wanted me to. Come in here, insult me like that. Alright, so we're gonna get the airbrush going to highlight these wings. Dialing my air pressure here. I got my little PSI dial. I want to be working really close to the model. So with a thumb means you kind of want to turn down your air pressure. Kenny coming in with a big grade. What's up, dude? Welcome, welcome, everybody. Doing some more work on this really cool dragon. This is the stuff we got done in the stream on Tuesday, as well as gold armor for the Stormcast rider. So we're gonna work on his wings, do a little bit of that, and go from there. But really liking how it's coming together so far. I was just saying that we're going to be airbrushing these wings. So base coated those kind of skin sections by hand. We're just going to go in with the airbrush and highlight those up, kind of like those little hair pieces on the main body. And because I want to be working really close to the model, the airbrush, I turned the air way down, so like very, very low pressure. Want to dial that in so we're getting a good highlight but without too much speckling. And Kyle Trevin coming in with a sub. Thank you so much for that. Let's get to it. And very lightly highlight up these skin sections. Just leaving the base color in those deep recesses, highlighting it up. In between sprays, I'm just moving my airbrush out to the side and giving it just a little puff of air, because when you're doing constant air with a very small amount of paint coming out, sometimes you can have a little bit of paint left on the needle when it retracts and extends from the main body. And so if I were to work the trigger and then start spraying, see how there's a little puff of air. So all I'm doing is just making sure that in between little sprays, like I do this section right here, and then kind of want to see where I want to go next. I'm just going to give a little puff off to the side to make sure that the next time I come into the model, I'm not going to get that speckling of paint. Oh, looking good. Let's flip it over. Won't need to do too much on the inside of the wing. Probably just these outlining sections. Probably good. Getting good there. I like how that's going. Just do the same thing. Our other wing. It's following the contours of these shapes. Doing a little bit by little bit. Be patient. Try not to blast out too much in any one section, because I want to make sure that these I don't know what these are called. What's like the finger rib bones of a wing called? I don't want to get paint on those, so I'd rather just do like little tiny test sprays. Get my aim dialed in, rather than try to get it done all in one go. Last little section right there. Alright, it's looking good. Do the same thing on the back. Don't need too much. Again, just on these kind of like outlying sections. Probably good enough. Very cool. Okay, so for these sections, I don't really want to use a dry brush the way that I was going to continue to highlight up the fur. So I am going to grab highlight color. I think I'm going to go with this bright pale green. And I'm just going to take like the dregs of what we were using, that bright jade. I'm just going to mix some of this in there. Flow improver. Dash of thinner. And I want to see how this looks. Anytime I have to mix up paint colors, try to make my own mixes, I like to try not to hit it on the first try. I don't want to just like, oh, I think this will work, and then like mix up a ton of paint and then realize like, oh, it's actually not right color. So I want to like add just a little bit and mix that up and see what it looks like. So I'm thinking what I need is a little bit more brightness. I'm gonna grab some white blue. Just do 2 drops. See what that looks like. A little bit more. Do 2 more. Okay, I think now we're cooking. I want to be working even closer. Okay, now we're looking really good. I like how that's turning out. I'm gonna get a little bit in this little web. There we go. Pop that just a little bit. Nice. Really liking that. Cool. I think that's all we need to do. Those wings. Get this cleaned out. I'm gonna figure out our plan for what we want to do next. Probably what I should do is give these wings a quick varnish. Just to protect that paint. Want to make sure we get all the pigment out of the airbrush before we do any clear coating. Some of our varnish. I think we are done the airbrush for a little bit. Oh, get that cleaned out. Start working on the main body of the dragon again. Wings looking really good. Those up to the side. So we've got the armored saddle, these plates, leather straps, the mouth area, eyes, and we've got like the teeth and talons and such. I'm looking at this model. I'm noticing that the dragon doesn't have like bone protrusion horns. They're sort of scaled like the rest of its body with these metal caps on the end. So I don't have to worry about painting the horns. I also got some more of the AK paint markers. I don't know how much of these excuse me, we can use. But my local shop got them in stock, so I was able to get things like the gunmetal, the other metallic like aluminum. There's like a dark aluminum, uh, rubber black, which doesn't seem that different from regular black. It might have like a little bit of color content to it when it's spread out, but I got that, and then like the flat black as well. And then some of the brighter colors I was missing, like this orange RAL, signal red, the yellow RAL, and then flat white and a brown. So just adding those to the already like 15 or so that I bought at LVO. Don't know if it wasn't in the catalog or they just don't make a gold in this. They may not make a gold. So I'll have to hand paint the metallics on the golden armor. But I might be able to use the pens for like these little totally not purity seals, whatever the Sigmar version of a purity seal is, little streamers. Might be able to use them for the leather. That could be kind of a cheat code. Maybe I'll try that out. Let's see. So we had just brown. And then see if I can do this. I've got darker brown. That's still pretty light. That is a good leather color. Some more like coyote brown. Let's see here. That's green. Buff. That's definitely your color. Maybe use that for some highlighting. Maybe they don't make like an ultra dark brown color. Yeah, it doesn't look like they do. Okay, we can work with this. So let's just go with maybe dark golden brown would be a good base coat. Yeah. Most of the time when I have to do stuff like this, which also applies to 40k, there's lots of models in 40k that have these like belts, straps, buckles, and such. I don't like doing the metal first because that means I have to paint around it, which can be trickier or time wasty. So I'll rather just paint this section in and then go in and paint in that buckle. Can also be a way to reset your color. Maybe if base color is black, you don't want that to inform the color that you're going to put on top, or maybe like the gold that you want to use is really bright and doesn't cover dark stuff too easily. Resetting it to brown could help a lot. 2 more on this side. 3 more, a little tiny one on the head. Make sure I don't miss any. Bit of it showing right. Oh, one on his arm, just noticed that. Little dragon bicep. Especially on these really small little straps and buckles. This is definitely something that I wouldn't want to have to paint around, so it's always a better idea to base out this color first, then paint in the buckle, and then try to paint around it. Just as a rule of thumb, if I can avoid it, I try to save metallics as like the last thing that I do for the like wash and cleanup steps. Kind of depends on the model itself and your color scheme, but most of the time you can do it that way. Cool. Dragon bicep strap. Are these even called drag? Does anybody know the lore? Like more, are these actually dragons? Or are they something else? I know that dragon taxonomy can get pretty deep. Maybe he's a wyvern. Or a drake. Or a worm. Not a true dragon. I don't know. This might not even be a bad color to base out all of the armor if you wanted to. This kind of darker coyote brown color would be good for doing a reset if you need to. It's like our normal down. Be a good highlight to that. So got a little paint marker. So I can come in, I can nice little details going. Start working in with that texturing. A little bright. We are going to be applying some washes. Kind of like a dedicated wash to these areas. Help blend the browns together a little bit more. Get a little bit lighter texture if I really focus on barely touching the model with these. They're a little broad stroke for stuff like this, but you know, we're testing them out. We're learning. They might lend themselves better to just like flat coating something rather than trying to do detail work like this. But I think we can do it. Like, it's in there. Okay. That was definitely faster than using a brush. Um, Shown for this part of the leather. Get out our little detail brush. Okay. Here's where I can come in. A couple more highlights going. I can very gently create more little scratchies and textures. Barely any paint on the brush. It kind of depends on the look you want to go for. Like if you wanted to do very like new leather, very kind of like boiled patent leather that's been dyed and everything lacquered, you could do that too. This is like I kind of view this almost like old, well-used horse tack. Nice broken in saddles where the leather is, you know, it's been stretched, it's been folded, it's been stressed, but it fits perfectly, you know, and it still works. So I want to get that texture in there. Zoom in just a little bit. And so it's a little out of focus, not the camera, but the viewing the model itself, because we still don't have everything blocked in. But we cut in the gold for those buckles, and down the road get like some targeted dark black or brown wash on those that'll tighten up the focus for your eye and be able to see that a lot better. But right now we're kind of stuck in the hot garbage phase for a little while. It's looking good though. I like how that turned out. Kind of a little in-betweener cheat code with the markers. You like a cool, as in cool temperature off-white for these pieces of creamer. Kind of assuming these are very similar to purity seals. I'm just using this RLM 76. Kind of a grayish off-white. And so for stuff like this, these work way better. You can see how easy it is to just color these in. And I think like the real cheat code on these isn't actually the normal colors. It's stuff like this, the off-whites, things like the yellow. Because in this form, whatever this proprietary mixture of the water-based acrylic paint is, it paints so much easier than if I was trying to do it myself. You know, and I don't mean to like brag or whatever, but I'm a good painter. So I know how to work with that paint. These types of colors. I know how to make it work. And this is still easier. So I mean, like if I had the option, Why would I do something different? So in the hard to reach spots, kind of hard, but I bet you what I can do. Just get a little bit of water in my brush here. Yeah, I can get down into that deep spot. Paint that in. Not that we necessarily have to color match on the dark underside here, but I just wanted to see if this would work, and it does look like it's working. And I don't care about this side because nobody's ever going to see that. Very cool. Rinse that out. You can see nothing sticking in the brush. Because this is, as I understand it, this is more or less the same water-based acrylic paint of the Generation 3 acrylics that AK puts out. So for no other reason to get these than these colors, I think this is like the #1 thing that I would recommend. Maybe the metallics. Just because this isn't the easiest in this particular case because of the shape of the model and the shape of our marker here. But for a lot of stuff, I think these could be real nice little cheat codes to have. Oh, I got a little bit on his arm. Tiny little dot. Some water on my brush. See if I can rub that away real quick. I don't think there's any. Oh wait, another little piece of parchment. Oh, still zoomed in like over here. All right, so that's our 3 little streamers. Dots and dashes to get into these. There we go. Cool. Just want to make sure that's good and bone dry. These can slightly reactivate themselves. Probably has to do with whatever thinning medium is keeping the paint wet inside the marker. So you want to make sure before doing a second pass that's really good and dry. On little things like this, it's pretty easy to do. They dry really fast. I actually did some white panels on my Imperial Guard tanks with these markers, and even on those big panels, as long as you just give it time to dry, it's really easy to paint with colors like See, I want to give this a little bit more time because that is really wet inside that scripting that's engraved in there, and then we'll do a second pass on those. Light dark highlight color. Do you have a flat white? I might have a brighter one. Let's see. Off-white might be the better one before we go all the way to flat white. Here we go. Eh. Now with just the flip, be able to come in. Final highlights. Easy. Those were great. I mean, it's a little test model. I was showing these off a couple weeks ago. So we've got like this little Space Marine dude. It's like a test model. So we did this pure yellow, and this is just two passes with one of those markers. Really dope. So they're not like an end all be all. They can't do every single job, but for some stuff, they're definitely a cheat code. And I always like having stuff like that in my toolbox. So, got like this little padded section. And all the other organic parts. Oh man, I missed. Dang it, I missed some little leather strappies. One right here on his snout. Oh, that was the wrong brown. Ah. We can make this kind of solid. Yeah. Guess let's do the mouth and all of our little talons. I'm trying to just think of all the stuff I need to do before getting into the gold. So I'm seeing added leather section. Those look like candles. I'm probably gonna have to do the candles after the gold. That's fine. Sometimes you run into stuff like that. Same with these skulls. Probably have to paint those in after I do the gold. So yeah, let's do mouth, talons, maybe eyes in this padded section, and then we can get into metals. Dun, dun, dun. Let's get like some advanced flesh tone. Then maybe like a tiny amount of dark magenta. Getting this flesh tone in there. Really thinned out. I kind of want to use it almost like a pseudo wash. So that it flows into all these very, very tiny little details. Kind of like the gum line. He doesn't really have one. except in a few very small areas, but I don't want to get in between the little crevices of the scales and the teeth. Into all these little hard to reach places. But it's good to have this paint so thin. I kind of want a little bit of flow to it. Get all up in here. This can also help us reset our teeth. We're going to want to use really bright colors like our ivories and everything. I'm trying to paint those over this purple, even though it's highlighted in a few areas, a lot of it's still dark purple. So doing this reset will just make that easier. Okay, so when you let that dry real good, and then need blush tone. Which I may not have. Yeah, I do. Pale pink. Some of this pale pink mix. That looks fine. Let that dry. I want all that stuff to get nice, good, and dry because we're going to be painting the teeth next. I'll start off with some golden brown, just kind of a yellow color. Yes. I want that to get really good and dry, because the next thing I want to do is come back with our little like kind of pinkish flesh tone pseudo wash and go back around those teeth just to kind of frame everything back out again. But I don't want to reactivate any of that. Starting to get there though. Starting to look like he has a face. Reestablish our little fake gum line. Helps our teeth pop a little bit, helps the sculpt look a little bit more real. Okay, looks good. Let's take that same golden brown. Now I want to start highlighting up the teeth a little bit. So let's grab heavy warm white. Perfect. Kind of a warmer off-white. Get a drop of that in there. I'm going to start just very gently glazing towards the tip of each tooth. I'm going to focus on the larger teeth, more prominent ones. get some of that heavy warm white by itself. Do the same thing. It's gonna get real thin. Get most of that paint out of my brush on a paper towel. So I have a very thin, kind of damp paint in the brush. Gently apply that to each little tooth, dragging it towards the tips. That's where the pigment concentrates. So that way we're building up a smooth transition of color. Big old tusky fangs. All right, one more pass. Oh yeah. Looking really cool. Now all of a sudden, dragon has a face. Got some teeths. Very cool. Let's let that set. I think we have just enough time to do his eyes. That's about it. Getting close to time. Wondering, I might be able to use our markers as a cheat code again. He's got pretty small little beady eyes for this size of model. I think I can... Yeah, I think I should be able to cheat that in there. Okay, so... Yeah, there's no rules for fantasy, so I think I want kind of like a little magical effect, like his eyes are burning, so... I want to get mid-tone orangey color. Orange red, that'll work. Yeah. Well, so on our stream on Tuesday, I was talking about how like I don't paint a lot of fantasy, but I do enjoy painting fantasy like hero models, like big set piece models like this guy. And one of the reasons I enjoy switching over to fantasy is because there's really like no rules. There's no like paint rules with fantasy. At least not in the same way there is with 40K. So we get to work with some colors and some color combos that we don't normally get to do. You know, because in fantasy, there's nothing that says you can't have like a fluorescent purple dragon. Or it wouldn't look out of place. Yeah, I mean, like you can get away with the same thing with chaos. Do a lot of really fun stuff, but as far as like a lot of the regular stuff, it just kind of like looks out of place, you know, given the setting. Like, sure, you could paint 100 guardsmen in a Astra Militarum army with, you know, bubblegum pink and fluorescent purple uniforms. But given the setting and the vibe of 40K, like it looks so severely out of place. Like it doesn't work. Um, but in fantasy, because of the high fantasy vibe of Sigmar, like kind of like the new wave fantasy vibe, you can do all sorts of crazy stuff, and it all just kind of works because it's, you know, it's Sigmar, it's fantasy. All right, let's grab our little yellow paint marker here. And I want to go in and just do like a little dot. Just like that. And now we have that like yellow balefire yellow dot looking thing in the middle of that orange. It's really cool. And it's so much easier to just go in and give it like a tiny little touch, this marker. And to try to do that with a paintbrush. um, so that looks really cool. And gonna be under the shadow of this, like, I don't know, dragon helmet. I don't know what this is supposed to be called, dragon helmet. And so, like, yeah, could I do that with a brush? Yes. But is it easier with this marker? Like, oh yeah, way easier. And so we were working with the leather pieces and these little like white streamies, purity seals, whatever they're called. Um, Doing stuff like that in those colors with those markers is definitely kind of cheat code that I bought them for. Um, but they have a lot of uses. Chameleon color, like what a chameleon actually looks like, or maybe like a chameleon trying to blend into its environment. I mean, like they have chameleon skinks in Sigmar for the lizardmen, or the, what do they call them now? Sour Seraphon. Yeah, you can zoom in. So, see, we get that like perfect tiny little pupil dot, the marker. So like that's what we want. That's the cheat code, right? Trying to do that with a paintbrush, way harder. Yeah, and sure, a little bit of streamers is like messy, but you know, like that's kind of why we're doing those steps before cutting in the armor pieces. Because I can be more free with the paintbrush or the marker, and then just go back, and instead of having to do like a cleanup step, like let's just say I painted in the gold and then try to do that and it got messy. Well, now I have to go back and correct it, right? And you may not want to do that, and it also wastes time. Whereas now I cut out a step entirely by just base coating over the top of it. So that's why I try to like break down every little step as like, what can I do now to save time later? One of the main focuses whenever I'm painting stuff is like time efficiency. Because I do this for fun, but at the same time, like everything that I paint is a game piece. I want to get it on the table. I want to play the game. So time efficiency is really big with me. How much are these? Um, Man, I should have brought the the brochure. So I think they were like 250 or 275 at the store. Um, I was saying like I remember $3. I bought some at a trade show earlier this year, and they were like $3. I think maybe that was rounding up with sales tax. They were like $3. And my local shop just got a big stock of them. They just got the display box with like all the colors. So I bought a bunch more last night. And I think before tax they were like 235, 250, 275. I can't remember which. Um, but yeah, they're like really cheap for the product. And like I was kind of showing on my hand earlier, but like it's the same acrylic paint that AK puts in their Generation 3 acrylic, but it has a different medium, which allows it to sit in the marker. And they'll last for forever because like they're more for small work. Um, I painted some panels on some Astra Militarum tanks. I don't have them in my office right now, but even on a panel that's like about that big of surface area. They don't have silver dollars anymore, but kind of about that size, where you're just doing a pass, let it dry real good, do a second pass. So it takes like two or three on a larger surface. But for small stuff, it's just like one and done. And I was showing off. Right after I bought them, I had this little test Space Marine. So this yellow chainsword I did with the yellow marker, and it's just like one pass, let it dry, two pass, fully opaque, like perfect base color for a bright yellow. You can see how bright that is. For stuff like this, that's why there's such a cheat code. But I don't know that they're full use for like. I don't know that I would want to base coat an entire miniature with them. I think that's a little bit of a stretch. But it's not like their intended use, right? So like we did these little paper thingies. We did those in the off-whites, and that was really fast. And we did like the highlights on our little leather straps with them. That was kind of with their use case, very easy. And for somebody like me, I could probably do it better with a paintbrush. I have like more accuracy, more control, like a tighter little texture pattern or whatever. But for a lot of people that struggle with brush control, those markers are kind of like the cheat code, which is why I like showing them off. I haven't tried caution lines yet. I mean, like we're kind of done for the day, so I could pull out the black marker real quick and we could try it. What is this? Flat black. The problem is that it is like a felt tip, semi-flexible tip. So drawing a line is still going to be kind of on the skill to the user. And like getting the proper spacing is still going to be tricky. Like you got to be able to kind of sketch it in there. And so like right now I'm already not liking this because like my brain is like, oh, your lines aren't the same width. They're not perfectly parallel the way you could get with masking tape. But I mean, yeah, you can totally do it. It's just not like I don't know that it's better than a brush or worse than a brush. It's just kind of like has like hand painting hazard stripes is difficult. Like there is it's entirely practice based, right? Like you have to build that skill. It's brush control, it's basically sketching, drawing, painting. Um so like if I really want to do hazard stripes on something, I'll either use a very small decal for that surface or I will use masking tape and I'll paint it with like a sponge or the airbrush. I don't like drawing it on there because when I do something like that where it's supposed to be like a stencil used like in universe air quotes, it needs to be like perfect. The line's got to be parallel, straight, same thickness, all that. Um, but for the kind of like it'll ride mentality, yeah, that's fine. That looks okay. But doing that is still entirely based on my skill being able to draw straight lines with a marker. The same way it would be based on your skill of using a paintbrush to draw straight lines. Because at the end of the day, it is just a marker, right? It's literally just like a slightly more flexible Sharpie with a little bit more flow in the tip. That's all they are. I mean, sure. Like that's why I said like if your mentality is like I want it to look cool, but I'm not really worried about it being like perfect, like it'll ride, air quotes. Like that's fine, right? But for me, because I have practice in that, like if I'm painting a tank or something and I want to do like some stencil stuff, like I can do it very quickly using like airbrush stencils and masking tape and stuff because I want it to be almost like scale model style, like perfect, right? Or you could use decals. Like I've got this sheet of decals. Gonna be at the bottom. Ah. There it is. So I've got a decal sheet like this that's just nothing but like stripes and hazard markings. So I can just put that on a chainsword, or I can cut it to shape and put it on like a shoulder pad or a knee pad or something like that, right? And I mean that's my personal bias, right? I'm not saying it looks bad. But every single time I've ever seen somebody like hand draw um like hazard stripes for like Iron Warriors or something, and it's like the lines are wobbly and not perfectly spaced, and like the black lines or the yellow lines are like thinner or fatter than each other. They're not like parallel the way they're supposed to be. I key in on that and I notice it because my background, the way I got started, is scale modeling. So whenever I'm doing something like that, that's what I revert to. That's like the techniques that I use. Um, and so I'm like, it's gotta be perfect, or I don't want to put it on the model. Okay, so fairly productive stream. We got our wings airbrushed. They're gonna look so sick when they're attached to the model. Sitting like right up in there. That turquoise, teal, ocean green, whatever you want to call it, contrasted with the fluorescent purple is going to look so sick, just like these little sections. Got the face and the leather is done up, so when we come back on Tuesday, we can start cutting in all of the metallics, and I will go into how to mix matte colors, so like your normal primary colors, orange, reds, yellows, browns, into metallic paint to get it to paint easier and to get some gradient to it, kind of like how we airbrushed it on this guy. So we'll be doing the same thing for the armor panels there, but we'll be doing it by hand. So go to the live tutorial on that. Yeah, like, and I mean, I have a YouTube video of how to hand paint stuff like that, how to freehand stuff like the Black Templar symbol. You can do it, but to make it perfect, it's practice. You have to build this. It's like handwriting, right? It's just like drawing, sketching, drafting, any of that kind of stuff that you have to manually draw by hand. Like it's not something that anybody is like innately born with, right? It's not a, I wouldn't call it a talent really. Like some people have more aptitude for it, but it's still practice. Like you have to um, get the muscle memory down. You have to practice it. You have to build up that skill, just like any other painting technique. And it takes a long time. So like I've seen armies where like every single thing is meticulously hand painted, and I'm like, that looks better than my stuff that's been airbrushed and stenciled. It just does because that person put in the time. However, like I'm not gonna put in 100 hours freehanding on Space Marines. Like I simply don't care enough. Where I'm like, I could just have an embossed symbol that I paint in, or I could put a decal on there that takes a fraction of the time and looks perfect to me and gets me on the table a lot faster. All right. Well, that was pretty good. I'm excited to keep working on this guy. He's going to be our stream project until we get him finished because Adepticon is on the 26th of this month. So we're going to have, let's see, one, two, three more streams because next week I'm driving to a tournament on Friday. And so I'll be doing a little bit of work here and there on my own time as we get closer to it because I also have to paint two other like lesser dragon riders. I don't know what they're called for the team tournament. But I want to keep this guy as like our stream project. So the idea is that we'll get him done in the next 3 streams. All right, let's throw a raid out so I can get out of here. Let's see who's painting stuff. Let's see, I've never seen this person. Guardians MH. Looks like they're painting Batman or something. This could be cool. Let's read them. Go see what they're up to. All right, starting this up. Make sure to opt in, and I'll see you guys next time.